Medicare is ridiculously confusing, and worse, normal people can never figure out all the problems in the Medicare system without having a lot of time on their hands, let alone people that are supposedly pros. One example is I've always recommended people to go on Medicare Supplement over Medicare Advantage if they can afford it, and if they're capable of going through medical underwriting in the states that permit it. Now, of course, if you're turning 65, there's no medical underwriting. Yet, I've helped people with huge prescription bills and told them to use Medicare Advantage with their budget. So it's not like a one-size-fits-all. Let me give you another scenario. A guy has to choose between food and a normal life or having a Medicare supplement policy. In that scenario, there are states without medical underwriting. And because of that, you have less income. You might want to hold off on getting that supplement plan until you really need it on something more serious and some kind of underlying problems. Now, of course, if you already have a serious underlying problem and you don't want to wait, you might want to keep that supplement plan. But in those states, a Medicare supplement is far more expensive than in underwriting states. Why? Because you can have instant access, and because of that, they're going to charge you far more, whereas in states that have continuous underwriting, the prices are much, much less. So my father lives in New York. The example I'm giving you about food and normal living is actually my dad, and he has no medical underwriting whatsoever in New York State, and our family has been historically healthy, and he couldn't afford a supplement plan. I told him, do not get Medicare Advantage because you can't get off until October, and we need to get you a supplement policy when we're ready to see a doctor and we have enough money saved up. Well, you can pretty much get one overnight, and that's exactly what we did. Now, is this the same exact advice I would give him if he lived in Missouri? No, not at all. What about Kansas? Completely different advice, and yet Kansas and Missouri are together. Why? Because Missouri and Kansas have different rules regarding Medicare. This is how silly this whole thing is. Missouri has a birthday rule which allows you to switch without underwriting on your birthday, but Kansas is fully underwritten. You just can't get off. Kansas is by far the cheapest Medicare supplement over Missouri. Kansas is by far the cheapest Medicare supplement over Missouri and New York because it's continuous underwriting, and my father could have afforded it if you started in New York State. That's why fully underwritten states are much cheaper, but you can't get on later. So there's less risk, and my father could have always afforded in Kansas, so I'd recommend that he never would have waited and just been on Medicare supplement with his income right there and then. And in such a scenario, he'd probably go on a Plan N, which is cheapest, because if he developed any health problems, it would have been too risky and just not worth it. But in New York State, I told him to get a Plan G, not a Plan N, which is even more expensive because the cost differential wasn't worth it. Again, all the advice I'm giving would be different in a different state, depending on his income. It's literally a disaster, and that's why these differences can start to see where the confusion begins. But let's suppose my father was on a lot of medications he couldn't afford. I would tell him to use a Medicare Advantage plan and then switch back to the original Medicare in October for his surgery because he needed to get the best surgeons, and they just aren't on Medicare Advantage. And also, prior authorizations change how it's all structured. Now, if you don't have that much money at all, you're under the poverty line, you might want to be on Medicare, original Medicare, with Medicaid that covers all the deficiencies of Medicare through Medicaid. The point is, there's no singular way to plan for Medicare that's easy to structure on a sheet of paper. It's like a line that goes like this, and no one can read a thing. Every single person is different depending on their income, their historical health, their assets. My friend Pat is 67. I gave him completely different advice, and he also lives in New York State. Why? Because no two people are the same. It's frankly impossible to tell someone what's in their best situation without knowing those different issues. Even worse is to get advice from friends and family because their plans can differ from state to state, even from county to county when it comes to Medicare Advantage. Even if I could tell you what I believe is the best advice in regards to your Medicare, there's another problem, which is the companies that you get set up with are trying to switch you from underneath. So let's say, for example, you get Medicare Supplement. You'll be shocked. What happens in the fall, you'll get a letter from them saying you can get all these things for free. I actually had a client this actually happened to. They want a Medicare Supplement plan. I helped save her over $900 in a year with her supplement, which is great. The problem was she got a letter from her company like, hey, we can get you even more benefits, $0 premiums. The problem? She was no longer going to be on Medicare Supplement. That's why you need to have someone who advocates for you and only cares about what's best for you. Now, she had some diabetic complications. You would never in a million years tell her to go to a Medicare Advantage and go back to a supplement in the state of Kansas because of the underwriting issues. So When she got that letter, I said, hey, read it to me. And the moment she started to read it, I realized that her own company was trying to take her off original Medicare and then put her into an Advantage without even saying it. It wasn't even clear in the letter. It was trying to be so surreptitious. It was actually just completely dishonest, in my opinion, and unethical. It listed all these benefits without explaining any of the downsides, which is very typical. Which just goes to show that insurance companies make far more money with Medicare Advantage, because why would they want you to switch otherwise? Anyways, my point is that Medicare is a terrible maze from Hades that has made millions of lives miserable. Comment below on your experience with Medicare, because I'd love to hear your story. The point is, you need someone who actually cares about you and can help you sort through this mess that is Medicare. Medicare supplement plans are incredibly universal. You pretty much get the same policy from company to company to company. It really comes down to the plan that you're in and the cost that you're paying. Otherwise, it's very, very uniform. Some people need to plan their income over the next 10 years and determine if the plans they're on are fiscally possible, whereas other people just want the best there is. Again, I wish there was some silly magic wand that I could do this and give you some answer, but there's not. Even if you try to cut out an agent and go directly to the company, there's no savings. Medicare is uniform in pricing. There's no difference. The difference is that is the agent you're working with, do they care for you? And does that agent really study what they're doing? Now, here's my suggestion to you. There's a phone number somewhere on the screen, and there's also a link in the description and a link in the comments that you can find a way to talk to us to see if we can help you. Now, I'm not promising that we can. In some cases, we can't. The point is, it's worth seeing. And if you want to see how we can do so, just call that number, click on the link. In the meantime, here's the thing for you. I want you to take care of your health, plan properly, retire in style. And in the meantime, make sure you subscribe. We have great content just for you, and I look forward to serving you every step of the way.